What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the next Battlefield game and a nice rumor that we got from Tom Henderson, kind of resident Battlefield expert, right? Or at least he knows what goes on within EA in the Battlefield department. And, it's nothing I think all that mind-blowing. However, it's something that's good to hear. You want to hear stuff like this because there is, I believe, an enormous amount of pressure on Battlefield. Like, EA makes its money. They make its money through Battlefield games, of the past. Sports games are just, reoccurring billions of dollars flooding them. But, as we saw with something like Dragon Age the Veilguard, didn't perform, kind of flopped or failed, whatever you want to say. And the stock prices on EA are actually down, I believe, 17%. They lost like $6 billion, in market share. So, they could use a bounce back and they could use Battlefield to be a good game. So we're talking about playtesting, okay? Now, pretty much every game under the sun does playtesting, but I would say like the ramifications of playtesting, that is what differs, studio to studio. Do they care what people are saying in these play tests? Do they care about the feedback and then implementing that feedback? And, it's no guarantee. EA has said a lot of crazy things. We've talked actually about the head of the company there. He said some not great things regarding AI, live service, kind of the future in that department. Not a reason to get all that excited, but I believe when you put the fans first, if that's the approach here with this Battlefield game, you're probably going to be looking better, better than if you didn't do that. So let's look at Insider Gaming's article. We're kind of skipping ahead here. So they say sources say that play tests with external players are happening much more frequently than in past installments. And the amount of data and feedback collected is the most the franchise has seen in its history, from small feedback sessions to large-scale player tests. Battlefield is now taking the much-needed player-first approach. It's an approach that we'll see continue to be played out coming to the start of the year 2, as it's understood that EA and its studios have been eyeing up the return of the Battlefield community test environment, but to what scale that's incorporated at this time is unclear. All in all, Battlefield seems to be trying to mend the mistakes it's made with a return to a modern military shooter with destruction, 4 classes, 64 players. EA could have a winner on its hands. Now, there's the update. Insider Gaming understands that playtests are ramping up again ahead of some big announcements for the game in the coming months. It's understood that playtests will test the game's multiplayer and ripple effects free-to-play Battle Royale offering. And so, look, as I just said, I spent the first minute and a half. They are just words. It's what you do with the feedback, right? But as that says, if it's true, and, again, it's Tom Henderson. I really have no reason to doubt that guy. No matter what could be happening, they are doing more testing than ever before. And it does seem from his reporting that they are listening to the feedback and implementing, whatever comes back in through the most play tests that they've done. They are implementing it also more than they've ever done in the past. And, again, I think it's an obvious thing, right? Like they've been very up and down, right? Battlefield games, they haven't necessarily been consistent for a while. I mean, I think when we had like the bad companies and, leading into like 3 and 4 and stuff like that was probably the golden era, right? Because you had several like hits in a row. But then when you got to like 5, 1, the last one, you had 2 bads and 1 good. I would say probably in the last 3. If that's unfair to say, I mean, you had Hardline thrown in back maybe like 2015 or so. So it's like, they haven't, the last 10 years have not been consistent, okay? Maybe right before then, the 5-6 years before that, they were cooking. But after that, they've struggled. So you would think the number one thing you would do is kind of just going back to what worked, right? Like we had success. These games sold 5-10 million. We were building something. They were building something, right? You would think you would just go back to that. You would think you would say, all right, for those fans, like those that played our games, those games, what were you interested in? And let's focus on that, and then let's listen to the feedback that we get from those people. And, we've seen over the last like 5-6 years, we've seen a lot of negative feedback coming in from those people playing the more recent games, and instead they triple down on the things that are driving people away. So it's just not been handled right, I think, is as clear as day, and whatever reasoning that might be. But again, like listening to fans, I do think is the way to handle this. I've always said this, like there's opportunity. Call of Duty is still strong. And it's different now because like Game Pass, like it's not the exact same environment as like 5 years ago, but I'm not saying Battlefield needs to overtake it, but you can have a world where you really push, like really, really push, or at least just have 2 legitimately good, shooters like that out at the same time. It is possible. It's not like one it's not the Harry Potter prophecy that one has to die, if the other lives. I think they can do it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.